On June 29, 2025, Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, faced a tragedy that stunned first responders and families nationwide. A brush fire was reported on Canfield Mountain, and firefighters quickly prepared to contain the growing blaze. To them, it was another summer call, a routine risk in dry Idaho forests with flames glowing against night skies. Fire engines rolled out, sirens echoing as crews prepared to protect homes, trees, and lives from the fire. Among those responding were 2 Battalion Chiefs, veteran firefighters respected for their leadership and courage. With decades of service, they had led countless crews into danger, trusted by their community as protectors. But this call would be different. The flames on Canfield Mountain hid a far darker, human threat. Investigators later revealed the fire was not an accident but set deliberately to lure responders as firefighters began work. The crackle of flames was suddenly drowned out by terrifying bursts of gunfire. A gunman, waiting among the trees, had ambushed the crew in a shocking act of calculated violence. Panic spread as shots rang through the night, scattering firefighters who were armed only with hoses and gear. Radios crackled with urgent calls for backup, voices heavy with shock at the sudden, deadly attack. In the chaos, 2 Battalion Chiefs were struck and fatally wounded, leaving crews devastated and unprotected. A 3rd firefighter was also hit, injured, while trying desperately to help his fallen colleagues. Fellow responders dragged the wounded to cover, using fire trucks as shields against the unseen threat. Police officers and tactical teams raced up the mountain, determined to confront the hidden shooter. The firefight ended when the gunman turned his weapon on himself, dying at the scene of the ambush. Silence followed, broken only by the roar of flames still consuming the dry Idaho brush. Fire crews, grief-stricken, continued their mission to contain the blaze even as they mourned their leaders. For the first time, Idaho firefighters became both victims and survivors of a crime scene in the line of duty. News spread quickly. Firefighters ambushed in Idaho headlines screamed across local and national outlets. Families of the fallen rushed to the scene, embraced by colleagues with tears streaming in disbelief. The community of Coeur d'Alene gathered at fire stations, leaving flowers, flags, and handwritten notes of grief. Vigils began that night, candles glowing as neighbors whispered prayers for the lost and the injured. The 2 Battalion Chiefs were remembered as heroes, mentors, and fathers who gave everything to their duty. The injured firefighter, though recovering, carried both physical scars and the burden of survival. Police confirmed the gunman had set the fire deliberately, making the ambush a chilling act of premeditation. Investigators searched his home, combing through journals, devices, and records to uncover a motive. Early reports suggested personal anger and isolation, though no clear reason justified such devastating violence. Law enforcement described it as one of the darkest days in Idaho's emergency services history. The governor issued a statement calling the fallen heroes whose sacrifice will never be forgotten. Fire departments across the nation lowered flags, honoring colleagues who died in an unimaginable ambush. The U.S. Fire Administration added their names to a growing list of responders killed in the line of duty at memorial sites. Children left drawings of fire trucks, thanking the chiefs for their bravery. Fellow firefighters, with heavy hearts, wore black bands over badges in silent tribute to their loss. Bagpipes played at vigils, the mournful sound carrying over crowds lit by hundreds of flickering candles. Locals shared stories of how the chiefs once saved homes, rescued families, and protected communities from wildfires. They were the kind of leaders who ran toward danger while we ran away. One neighbor said, "The tragedy sparked national conversation about violence against first responders in an already dangerous profession." Experts called the act a calculated betrayal of those sworn to save lives, not wage war. The investigation revealed chilling planning, a fire used as bait, lives sacrificed to twisted rage. Analysts compared it to domestic terrorism, where the target was not civilians but emergency crews. For firefighters, the thought of ambush while fighting flames struck deep fear and sorrow. Departments across the country reviewed safety protocols, wondering how to prepare for such rare cruelty. Police officers, often trained for ambushes, expressed solidarity with firefighters unprepared for such targeted violence. Across Idaho, stations held moments of silence at the same hour of the fatal ambush. Families of the fallen chiefs described them as devoted husbands, fathers, and friends. Their names echoed through the community, etched in hearts as men who lived with courage. National firefighter unions pledged full support for the families, raising funds and providing benefits. Messages of support poured in from across America, uniting strangers in grief and solidarity. At the memorial service, uniforms from every corner of the U.S. filled pews in somber tribute. Speeches remembered the fallen as leaders who trained others to save countless lives. Tears streamed as fire helmets rested on caskets draped with flags, symbols of honor and sacrifice. The injured firefighter, recovering slowly, promised to honor his leaders by returning to duty. Children of the fallen clutched folded flags, reminders of both loss and pride in their legacy. Local schools held assemblies, teaching students about the bravery of those who protect them. Memorial walls displayed photos of the chiefs smiling, reminders of lives lived with dedication. One firefighter said, "We lost our leaders, but their spirit still guides us into every call." Psychologists warned that trauma from such ambushes could haunt survivors for years to come. Yet many vowed resilience, saying the best way to honor the fallen is to keep serving. Lawmakers called for stronger protections for first responders, including better equipment and training. Bills were introduced to increase penalties for crimes targeting firefighters and paramedics. Advocates demanded mental health support for families, survivors, and colleagues left scarred by the ambush. Safety drills across the U.S. began, including scenarios of unexpected violence against fire crews. Experts debated how society could allow such violence against those who save lives. Communities urged citizens to value and protect their firefighters as more than just emergency workers. In Coeur, Alene, murals were painted to honor the fallen, their faces rising above painted flames. Streets were lined with flags as funeral processions carried the chiefs to their final rest. The town stood still that day, sirens silenced in respect for lives taken too soon. Children waved signs reading, "Thank you, heroes," as fire engines drove in solemn parade. The ambush reminded America that even heroes are vulnerable to sudden, senseless violence. Families of the fallen asked only for remembrance, dignity, and continued pursuit of justice. Investigators continued combing through the shooter's life, hoping to explain what fueled his actions. Though motive may never be clear, the devastation he caused will never be forgotten. Survivors of the fire ambush described guilt and grief, but also resilience to keep serving. "We fight fires, not gunmen," one firefighter said, voice trembling but full of resolve. Communities across Idaho responded with food drives, fundraisers, and unwavering support for grieving families. Nationwide, firefighters embraced a brotherhood stronger than the fear the ambush tried to create. News outlets replayed footage of vigils, flags waving, and candles glowing in endless tribute. The story captured the hearts of millions, reminding all of the risks carried by first responders. Months later, scars remained, but Coeur d'Alene continued honoring its heroes daily. Stations renamed training programs after the fallen, ensuring their legacy lives on. Scholarships were created in their names, supporting young recruits following their path of service. The injured firefighter gave his first public statement, thanking the nation for endless support. His survival became a symbol of hope, proof that resilience can rise even from tragedy. Families of the chiefs continued to speak at events, advocating for safety reforms. They reminded audiences that heroes are human, deserving protection as much as honor. Every anniversary of June 29th, bells toll in Coeur d'Alene to mark the fateful night. Silence falls as fire crews bow heads, remembering the sound of gunfire that changed everything. And yet, with courage, they vow to continue to fight fires, save lives, and never surrender. The Coeur d'Alene ambush is remembered not only as tragedy but as a warning. It stands as proof that even in safety's uniform, danger can come when least expected. But more importantly, it remains a story of sacrifice, courage, and unbroken community spirit. Two chiefs gave everything for their people, and their names now live as symbols of bravery. The Idaho ambush will forever remind America to protect its protectors, for heroes must never fall forgotten.